Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind Podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. We got NFL Week 15, 10-game main slate. As always, we are going to focus on the main slate. We'll have a ton of content. I know Keith was just telling me he got done with his rankings, and I have rankings that I have to do for Saturday slate and expert survey for Saturday slate. So we'll have a ton of stuff as far as content up on RotoGrinders for Saturday's 3-game slate. It's a fun little 3-game slate. Gives me like Thanksgiving vibes, but joined as always by my buddy Keith Eister. Keith, I hope you had a better week 14 than I did. Injury bug hasn't like bit me this year, but it bit me this week. I had a lot of Jefferson. I know he was one of the ones that bit me, but just overall, not a great week. Ready for a bounce back here on week 15.
Yeah, week 14 was really rough for me as well. Probably my worst week of the season. I had a ton of Justin Jefferson. I had a ton of Jamar Chase, who just disappeared from the offense. Higgins had a decent game. Chase Brown decided he was going to take every touch, like 50 yards. Had a lot of Mike Evans. That did not work out. We were in love with the Falcon. Well, I was in love with the Falcons Tampa Bay game, but it got popular by the time we got to Sunday. Yep. And so I was like, man, I don't really want to play Drake London and Kyle Pitts into ownership on this slate. So got off of that a little bit, even though I absolutely love the game environment. Zach Moss with another dud. I had a ton of him. Just, yeah, a very bad week 14 for me.
Yeah, I mean, Drake London was like one of the bright spots that I had, but like you said, he got popular. So that it didn't matter as much. But he was like my highest owned wide receiver last week. So he was just too cheap on DK, just overall. But yeah, Jamar Chase, Keenan Allen. I talked about how much I love that game on the podcast last week. And I mean, Russ didn't kill me. He didn't have a great game. Luckily, he threw that like long touchdown to Sutton. But like that game overall didn't do what I was kind of hoping for. Zach Moss busted again. Like just so many pieces on top of Jefferson that just didn't work out. Like Hubbard had a great game rushing, just didn't score. Like, so a lot of the pieces that I was like heavy on last week just didn't work out. And I mean, those weeks are going to happen. You move on. That's the best part about DFS. Had a good week betting. I had a really good week betting. A lot of the props that I was on was awesome. So, I mean, it kind of worked out. I had an alt line for Drake London, and nice. that smashed. Yeah. So he had a huge game. The only reason I bring that up is that was
let's throw the ball to our like stud wide receiver who is winning at the contested catch rate at one of the highest rates in the NFL. Maybe keep throwing it to that guy.
Yeah, shocking how much it worked for us. But anyway, all right, let's get started. Week 15, 10 games. We're getting close to the end of the season. Games are mattering more and more. And we start here with the Falcons at Carolina, 34 total. Atlanta, a 3-point favorite in this game. We just got done talking about Atlanta. We talked a lot about weather last week, and I don't ever talk about weather a lot. And like the weather shifted everywhere. But by the time we recorded Wednesday, we're just going to break down this game. Make sure you're paying attention to the weather Saturday night, Sunday morning. Kevin Roth will keep us updated. So thoughts will change depending on weather. This is one of the games that has some potential weather. I live in Florida, and it's supposed to rain all day Saturday and Sunday. So like the Miami game might have some weather as well. We'll go to Atlanta first. We got done just talking about it. Desmond Ridder coming off of the best game of the season for him. We'll just call it how it is. He threw for 347 yards. He threw for only one touchdown, but ran for a touchdown as well. Had a phenomenal DFS day. Drake London, 11 targets. Drake London should be a double-digit target wide receiver every single week. Whether you're going to throw the ball 25 or 35 times, Drake London should be double-digit targets every week. He smashed. Talk to me here about the Falcons going up against Carolina defense that has been, I mean, phenomenal against the pass this season. They're only allowing 186 passing yards per game.
Yeah, it's really on the ground where you want to attack Carolina. Unfortunately, that Bijan Robinson role that we were talking highly of over the last 3 weeks on last week's pod, he split the carries basically with Algier last week. So I really want to play Bijan Robinson in this spot. I think it's a phenomenal matchup. The price has come up to $6,800. He split the backfield work again, so it's a little bit concerning. It's going to be a little bit dependent upon ownership, but I think Bijan has an enormous ceiling in this spot here. Atlanta is short favorites in the spot on the road in Carolina, which kind of surprised me after their showing last week. And Carolina has just been atrocious all year long. That's one of the bets that I like this week is the Atlanta side here. I don't know. I'm leaning into the Bijan side here. I'm fine playing Drake London again, but Carolina has been much better against the pass, like you mentioned. The price is still totally fine. I think he has plenty of upside. It's not the great price we saw last week, but still in play. I'm not playing Ritter. I didn't get there last week because he started catching a little bit of ownership, and I'm probably not doing it again. It's Bijan Robinson is really the play here for Atlanta for me.
Yep, I'm with you. I like Bijan. Potential weather in this game could play a factor as well. In large field tournaments, I don't hate getting Algier in this spot either. This could be a game where Atlanta runs the ball 30 plus times, and Bijan probably gets 15 of those, and then we give Algier 10 and Patterson 5. So, like, I think Algier at 4,400 is okay for large field tournament stuff, like very top heavy tournaments. If he gets the 2 rushing touchdowns, he smashes. He went for 24 fantasy points week 1 against Carolina. He had the 2 touchdowns. So, I like Bijan. He's clearly my favorite play. I'm not going back to Drake London in this spot. It's a tough spot. If anything, I would play some Kyle Pitts here. Carolina has been really good on the outside. Where they have struggled a little bit in the passing game is the inside stuff. So, if anything, it would be Kyle Pitts, but I'm not like in love with Kyle Pitts either. It's really Bijan. I actually have a little bit of interest in the Atlanta defense as well. Let's go to the Carolina side of this game. I'm not playing Bryce Young. I could start with that. Just zero ceiling whatsoever. Hubbard has been fantastic recently. The new coach, he's had 25 and 23 carries with the new coach. Atlanta is the team you got to beat by the pass. Their run defense is solid. They're not fantastic, but they're solid. They're top 15 run defense. Is this a week we take shots on Hubbard? Do we take shots again on Mingo? He got chalky last week. He still had 9 targets. He only had 2 catches. Got to remember who's throwing him the football. I just don't have a ton of interest in Carolina here.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I love the volume from Hubbard, and it's not like that game was close either. They were getting smashed by the Saints, and Hubbard still had 23 rushing attempts. So they're very committed to just pounding the football here, and I don't know, just running clock,
finishing the season. Yeah,
exactly.
They just want the season to be over.
Exactly. Yep. So I think you can lock in 20 carries for Chuba Hubbard. It's not the best matchup, but at 5,600, that's definitely playable. And then I agree, like the passing game has not been good. Mingo's target share was still up there, but Bryce Young just isn't throwing him catchable footballs at this point. So it's difficult. I don't mind a shot on Mingo at 3,900. I don't think I'm playing Thielen in this spot at his price tag. And as much as the passing game has struggled here, it's really Hubbard and Mingo are the only 2 targets for me here.
And Mingo is just in play because he's so cheap. Like his target share, he's on the field. He's been on the field all year. But the targets have been consistent. This is a guy, 5 straight games, he has at least 6 targets. They're just not great targets. He's got to make a play. We saw that against Tampa. I think just you're playing Mingo price-wise, but again, I want to watch his ownership. Like he last week, just like his ownership climbed way too much last week. All right, Chicago, your Bears. Going into Cleveland, 38 total in this game. Cleveland, a 3-point favorite. Let's go Chicago Bears first. DJ Moore is banged up. He did not practice Wednesday. He got hurt. What was it, the 3rd quarter? Right? It was the 3rd quarter, I'm pretty sure. He's still, I think he played through it. He's been phenomenal recently, and he's getting, the work that he deserves. This is a tough defensive matchup for DJ Moore. His price is now at 6,900. Justin Fields can beat you on the ground. He can definitely get up there about him. What are your thoughts here when it comes to your Bears?
Yeah, I think DJ is fine. Like you said, he kind of played through it last week. I imagine that he'll be out there this week. Tough matchup against Cleveland. Cleveland is dealing with some injuries, though. And the other note that I wanted to make is that they play one of the highest rates, maybe even the highest rate of man coverage in the entire league. And running quarterbacks against man coverage is a thing that you can exploit a little bit. Like the defensive backs tend to run with the receivers a little bit longer. That opens up a little bit more open field for Justin Fields, who we know is amazing when he has space to run. I don't love Fields at this price because it's a very difficult passing matchup, but it wouldn't shock me to see him run for 100 yards in this spot, and that is certainly useful. If I was targeting a pass catcher, it's probably DJ Moore, even though the salary has come up a little bit, and he's banged up a little bit. No way I'm touching the backfield. Don't think it's a great matchup for Kmet, so I'm probably not going there. I do want to note the Bears defense, like it has been phenomenal for like 4 weeks now. And we used to pick, like the beginning of the season, we were all in on picking on this Bears defense, but they traded for Montez Sweat, who has given them a little bit of a pass rush when there's been nothing up until the point of them trading for him. And Jalen Johnson has played like a top 5 corner in the entire league on the back end. So this Bears defense has been playing phenomenal. I think it's legit. We're talking about a matchup against Joe Flacco here. So I think the Bears defense is in play too.
Yeah, the Bears defense has been great. If we look at the last 5 games for them, they're 92 rushing yards per game and 191 passing yards per game. That's the 3rd best for passing yards and the 5th best for rushing yards in that span. So they've been phenomenal, and like they've been great against the run all year. They just have been just stout against the run. So quietly, both of these teams are really good against the run. And I mean, Cleveland has one of the best defenses in the league. I think in large field tournaments, I think you could take shots on Justin Fields naked. I think you could play him. DJ Moore, like you said, man coverage is someone that could beat man coverage. So, I mean, that's where I would attack this. I'm with you on Cole Kmet. I got to him a little bit last week. He had an okay game in that Detroit game. It just, he didn't score, but he had a good, anytime you get double-digit fantasy points from your tight end, they're not going to kill you. Cleveland side, how tilting for anybody that played Njoku against the Rams that he just did what he did against the Jags last week. I was very tilted watching that game. What are your thoughts here when it comes to Cleveland?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about the Bears defense being a lot better. They have shut down like wide receiver ones all season. They've been the best team against the run all season long. So I think Njoku is the play here if you're looking for somebody. Like Flacco has been really good. I'm not going to deny that. He's throwing the ball down the field. He's taking chances. And it looks like he still has some arm left there. Like he's been playing well. I don't love this spot outdoors. The weather looks okay, but I don't know. Like Cooper got an amazing target, 14 targets last week for Amari Cooper. If I was looking for wide receivers, Cooper would be the guy. I think Cooper being healthy kind of shuts down the Elijah Moore stuff where he was starting to get some steam. But Njoku over Cooper, I think, is the play. Just the Bears have been vulnerable to the tight end position all season long. They've been really good against wide receiver ones. So give me Njoku over Cooper, but not in love with either, really.
Yeah, I think if you're playing Fields and even if you're playing Fields naked and you want to run it back, I think Cooper or Njoku is where you do it.
Yep.
And because you want Cleveland to put up some points because like you really want Fields' upside to be 80 plus rushing yards and a touchdown rushing. I mean that's where you're really wanting like Fields to get his ceiling from because then at that point if he throws for 1 and 200 yards on top of that, just smashes. So I don't mind running it back with Cooper and Njoku, but that's really it. I mean, I think both defenses in this game are playable. They're kind of like mid-tier pricing defenses, so I don't know like what they'll have ownership-wise. We typically don't see a ton of ownership when it comes to middle of the field defenses. So, I mean, I think this is a spot for Chicago-wise. I don't think their defense will get a lot of ownership at all. All right, we got Tampa Bay at Green Bay. Green Bay Packers, I think, let a lot of people down last week. 41.5 total in this game. Packers a 3.5-point favorite. We'll start with Tampa. Green Bay has really, really, really been struggling with the run this year, and it's been worse lately. They've allowed 170 rushing yards on average over the last 5 games. We have a running back that doesn't come off the field very often here for Tampa Bay. I think Rachaad White is one of the top running back plays point per dollar on this slate. Don't mind going back to Mike Evans, but I really think this is a Rachaad White White game for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. As far as roles go among running backs in the NFL, he's right up there with Christian McCaffrey. Like he just doesn't come off the field, like you said. So completely in agreement there. I think that's the way you want to attack this Packers defense. I probably go back to Evans a little bit just because I have some interest in Packers stacks on the other side. I mean, this Tampa Bay defense did just allow Desmond Ridder to throw for almost 350 yards. So I'll probably play some love, which means I'll be running it back with Evans. No need for Baker Mayfield in the spot. I don't think I'm playing Godwin either. Cade Otton is still cheap. He's had a decent role here. I think you could play him, but Rachaad White, definitely the main target of the Tampa Bay offense here.
Yeah, I think White and Evans. I mean, Godwin's banged up right now. If Godwin were to sit and you wanted to take a shot on $3,100 Palmer, he would definitely see 5 to 8 targets here if Godwin sits. So, like, I think Palmer would be a value play if Godwin ends up sitting. I don't know if I get the Cade Otton. He's very, very touchdown dependent. And like he scored last week and still had under 10 fantasy points, which is not going to kill you at 3,200, but we have some good tight end plays on this slate. So I think Tampa, for me, it's White way ahead of everybody, and then running it back with some Evans. Going to the Green Bay side, and I know by what you just said, you're going to be with me on this, but I mean, I'm going back to the well here on Jordan Love. I know he played terrible against the Giants after he was looking really good. Like he had a stretch there where like he was looking really good. Jones is banged up. Dillon's banged up. I think they're going to have to rely on Jordan Love and whatever wide receiver plays. I have interest because they're all banged up right now. Reed is banged up. It's an ankle injury, but he's expected to play. We're waiting to see if Watson's going to be back with the hamstring injury that has been his biggest downfall. Wicks is banged up. I mean, Dobbs is 5,300. Reed is 4,900. Watson's 4,800. So whoever suits up here, I'm in. I have some slight interest in Tucker Kraft at 3K as a cheap tight end. I'm with you on Green Bay this week. I think this is a spot we just go back and just say he played bad. It happened. We move on.
Yeah, I mean, it's as good of a spot as you can ask for a passing game. Tampa Bay has been a pass funnel for a couple of years now. Love, like you said, looked really good for a few weeks there. Played bad last week. It happens. I'm willing to give him a pass on that. I don't think he's any worse than Desmond Ridder, and Ridder just had a phenomenal game against this Tampa Bay defense. So in Green Bay, the cold weather's a little bit scary, but it looks fine outside of the temperature. Like there's no wind, there's no precipitation. I think it's wheels up for this Packers passing game. Jaden Reed is my favorite. He's been getting like rushing attempts as well. Like he's very live for a rushing TD, I think, even if he doesn't find the end zone via a receiving TD. They've been giving him some chances on like end arounds and like trick play type of stuff. So that's very interesting to me. If Christian Watson is out, Jaden Reed might be my highest owned receiver of the entire slate. It's a phenomenal spot for him. His target share is growing, and then they're designing plays for him like behind the line of scrimmage and runs and things like that as well. So Reed is very involved. Depending on who else plays, like if Wicks plays and Watson does not, I think Dontavian Wicks is in play a little bit too. He started to carve out a pretty nice role. 6 targets last week, left with the injury as well. So, I mean, no Watson and Wicks in. I'd have interest on Wicks at 4K. And I totally agree. Tucker Kraft has just stepped right into the Luke Musgrave role. He's like not coming off the field. Only 4 targets, but I mean, the guy's on the field all the time. I think that the upside for a touchdown is great in the spot.
Especially with how banged up the wide receivers are, right? Like That's the thing. You know, Watson's hamstring injury, he might miss again. Wicks has a high ankle sprain. It's a short week. They played on Monday night, so they have less time to prep. I mean, if we get Watson, Wicks out, I definitely want to play Dobbs and Reed. I want to play some Kraft, and that's where you like get into like Heath is 3K on like a double stack. You could play Heath on a double stack at 3K. So Tampa's good against the run. They've been good against the run for years. Like you said, they're a funnel defense. They've been great at stopping the run again this year. I mean, they are a team you want to attack with the passing game. And I mean, I think that's what we're going to see here from Green Bay. And then, like you said, it is the time of the year where like we're definitely watching weather, but like a cold game without rain or snow or wind,
Totally
I
fine.
mean, they'll be fine. I mean, there's going to be heaters on the sideline. These guys will be fine. Jets and Dolphins, what a letdown from my Dolphins. Oh my gosh. They scored that second touchdown. I got up by 2 touchdowns at the end of that game, and I was like, all right, we got this. And anyway, 37.5 total, Miami 8.5-point favorite. Let's go to the Jets side first. Who was playing quarterback at the Jets last week? Because it wasn't Zach Wilson. I mean, 300 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns against Houston. Miami's defense has been a lot better. They've had a lot of guys come off the IR. Ramsey's back. This defense is getting healthy, and they have been healthy. What are we doing with the Jets after what we just witnessed from the Jets offense last week?
Yeah, I mean that was a shock to everybody. I'm sure. I am a little bit concerned about the weather in this game. It's very early in the week. We have no idea what it's going to turn into.
It's going to rain. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and there's a chance for some wind too. Like Roth has this game at Orange, which is surprising to see in Miami, but it's the 20-mile-an-hour winds with gusts up to 35. That's what's in his current report right now. That's a little bit scary. If I knew the weather was okay, it's hard to ignore the role for Garrett Wilson, but definitely keeping an eye on the weather.
I don't want to interrupt you. I just want to say I've been to the stadium multiple times. I'm a Dolphins fan. I live in Florida. The way the stadium is designed, I don't think wind affects this stadium as much as it would affect like a more open field. Like this is still an open football field, don't get me wrong, but the way the stadium is designed, I feel like it's definitely designed to sustain Florida winds. So I am concerned, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if I'm like really playing Zach Wilson to throw the long ball either. So I just don't know how much I want wind to affect this game for me.
Fair points. Nice perspective there. I do still have interest in Garrett Wilson. Like it's hard to ignore the role here. Zach Wilson has locked on to Garrett Wilson every time that he's played quarterback. Like we know that Garrett Wilson is Zach's guy. So I think you can still play Garrett Wilson, even if there's some rain and even a little bit of wind. I think Garrett Wilson is going to be in play here. They're just going to have to throw to keep pace with this Miami offense. Although, I mean, I don't know. Tyreek is a major, major factor. We'll talk about that in just a second here.
It matters a lot if Tyreek plays or doesn't play. But I think 2 things that, needs to be said about last week's game. One, they opened up the playbook for Zach Wilson for the first time this season. We saw screens. We saw them really getting Breece Hall involved in the passing game. He had 9 targets. He had 8 catches. Breece Hall has become a huge factor in the passing game. If he's going to get 8 points just from catching the ball out of the backfield, we really got to watch Breece Hall. Miami's fantastic, against the run this year. But, again, we are going to get a passing role, and like in games, if you're planning on Miami being up in this game, I think Tyreek plays. Did you see the note that like his wife texts him? He was talking about it on a podcast, and like his wife texts him at halftime, and she's like, "You better get your butt back in the game."
That's awesome.
So
no, I did not see that.
I think Tyreek plays. I want to play Hall and I want to play Wilson. I don't want to play Zach Wilson. He is really, really cheap. I just want to. I think it's an outlier game so bad. I just don't see him throwing for 300. The Miami defense has been solid. Could he pay off 4,900 in a game against Miami? Sure. Just really feels like a Sam Howell situation that we played just a couple weeks ago, and it was a huge letdown. If he's like projected as like 15th, 16th, 17th quarterback ownership wise, I might take some shots on Zach Wilson in that scenario. I think he's going to get some ownership this week because of what he just did. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Like Hall, I like Wilson. Miami side of this game, I don't want to play Tua at 7,900. I talked about this in the expert survey with the 2-game slate. Tua has been great this year, and like we've seen him have, really, really solid games, but his ceiling is kind of capped. He'll have these big games, but he's not running. And they don't want him running. So, the days of Tua rushing for a touchdown and rushing for like 40 yards is over. And like in this day and age, DFS with football, we need a little bit of rushing upside at quarterback. Obviously, like Tyreek, the running back situation is really interesting. I mean, Achane is the ceiling guy, even though like Raheem Mostert continues to just do his thing. I still think Achane is the ceiling guy.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Tua stuff. Like the Jets defense is still really solid. I struggle to see the ceiling spot here. The offensive line is also a concern here. They lost
Center
Connor Williams.
Yeah.
And Armstead, their left tackle, is questionable, I believe. Like they're like you saw it in that last game against the Titans. Tua was like Tyreek not being on the field, first of all, would not allow him to get the ball out extremely fast like he usually does. And then on top of that, the offensive line pass protection was breaking down. So that's why Miami struggled on offense against the Titans. I'm concerned about this offensive line against this really stout Jets defense. Like it could be an issue if Armstead is not out there. Tua could be forced to get rid of the ball a lot quicker than he wants to, and he's already one of the quickest guys in the NFL at getting rid of the ball. I mean, Tyreek is the play for sure if he's out there. Have to just monitor the injury report. Obviously, he tried to gut it out at the end of that Titans game. I think he probably tries to play in this spot. 9,900 for a guy who's dealing with an ankle injury is a lot, but it's Tyreek Hill. I mean, we've been playing him all year long. If they need to go to the quick passing game, there's nobody better to do it than Tyreek Hill. I still have interest, even with the injury. The running backs, I'm kind of concerned about Achane's injury as well. Listed as a toe injury. If that's turf toe, like that's problematic for like the explosiveness that helps him succeed. Like his efficiency is what's so great about him. He's not going to outcarry Mostert as long as the game is close. Mostert has proven to be the lead back here. You need Achane to be super uber efficient on his touches. And if he's dealing with a toe injury that's limiting his explosiveness at all, I do have some concerns. So I think I'd lean to Mostert in this spot. Mostert and Tyreek are the two plays here. I always want exposure to this Dolphins offense, but I think there is reason to be a little bit cautious this week.
I think Waddle's interesting too. I mean, if we're projecting Sauce to shadow Tyreek, that would, first of all, it'd be a terrible decision by the Jets, because if they play one-on-one with Tyreek, he's going to go for 200 plus yards in this game. I don't care who's defending him. I think Waddle is somewhat interesting in this spot with Tyreek. Even if Tyreek plays, they might cap his like snaps. So, this guy he bounces back and bounces up from injuries all the time. So the fact that like he didn't come back in that game until midway through the third quarter, I think the ankle injury was something that definitely hurt him. And we talk about how bad those tackles are. Gosh, I hope they get rid of those tackles. They have been a injury just killer this year. I think it's like 20 plus injuries is what I was reading the other day. And for what it's worth, Williams got put on the IR, and Armstead, he ended up practicing. They didn't practice Wednesday, but he wasn't even listed as like a non-participant guy. So
okay, that's helpful. They're still missing a couple of like Williams is a big deal at center. He's an outstanding center. Yeah. And then I think there's a couple injuries along that line other than Armstead as well.
Yeah, Pro Football Focus has Williams as like a top 5 at his position. So
yeah.
All right. Listen, I love the Dolphins. I hope that Tyreek plays, because it's just so much fun to watch the record thing. He's having a phenomenal year. You don't want to see another one of those tackles take out another player. All right, we got the Giants and the Saints. I'm not talking bad, just so you know, on purpose about these early games, because I did that last week and the early game smashed. So I'm purposely not talking bad about these early games. 39.5, Saints of 6-point favorites. We'll start with the Giants. You got to beat the Saints on the ground, and the Giants have one of the best running backs in the league. I think this is a fantastic spot for Saquon, and I think Saquon, because they played on Monday night and he had another big game, like we're not getting the full increase in Saquon's price as it should have been.
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic spot for Saquon. I do want to mention the offensive players of the week. Tommy DeVito and Zach Wilson, both New York quarterbacks. Like, what a world we are living in. What a quarterback situation in this league that we are dealing with, where Tommy DeVito and Zach Wilson can win Offensive Players of the Week. But congrats to them. They both played really well. That being said, no chance I'm going to Tommy DeVito in this spot. It's Saquon Barkley for me on this Giants offense, and that's about it. Worth noting, Darren Waller does have a chance to make it back for this game, but I still don't think I'd go there.
Not throwing enough. I mean, they're really relying on the run, and like DeVito's running. So I don't think I don't want to instantly write off DeVito because like he is 5K and like we have seen him run for 40 plus yards. Like if he rushes for a touchdown last week, he's 20 plus fantasy points. So I don't want to play DeVito as a passer. And like if I was going to play DeVito, it would almost be like getting exposure off of Barkley to DeVito and probably playing DeVito by himself, kind of thing. So I think that's how I would attack DeVito. It's Saquon. It's Saquon for me. Like Hyatt has upside and he's really cheap. Like if you think he can have that big play, Wan'Dale would be my favorite wide receiver here, though. I played him a lot on Monday night because like everyone was on the Hyatt train, but like he's the consistent guy. And I think he has the upside. And they're like getting him involved in like end around, like running type plays and stuff. So they want to get this talented wide receiver the ball. If he could just stay healthy. I mean, this is a guy that was very, very highly touted. Saints. I mean, gosh, after watching Green Bay, you're like, do I do anything with the Saints here? Should I do anything? But I mean, honestly, like the Giants defense has been terrible. They played a really good game. This game's in the dome. I don't necessarily love Derek Carr, but I mean, I think we have to at least respect like the role that Chris Olave has right now. Dealing with the ankle injury has me a little worried. Like he didn't get the same type of targets last week, and like I can't tell you how much Alvin Kamara I switched to last week when Taysom Hill got ruled out, and like his role just was like, where's Alvin Kamara? But they got up in that Carolina game so fast that they just didn't need to do anything. Are you worried about that a little bit? Sure. I don't think Jamal Williams is going to get, double-digit carries again, but that is definitely a concern. Jamal Williams did have like a groin injury on the practice report today. If Jamal Williams sits and Miller's out, Kamara at 86 he's probably not coming off the field.
Yeah, the Kamara stuff is interesting. I think he's absolutely playable if Taysom misses again, but I am concerned about Jamal Williams still picking up a significant workload here. If Williams and Taysom are both out, I'm not as concerned about Kendre Miller as I am about Jamal Williams. So Kamara would be very much in play in that scenario for me. I was underweight on Kamara last week. I was scared of exactly this happening, that Jamal Williams would be the guy that picked up kind of the Taysom role. I don't know. Like they've always just been scared to give Kamara like the massive rushing role. He generally has to get there through the passing game involvement as well. I think they play from ahead in this game as well. So if Williams or Taysom are in there, I have reservations about Kamara. I think it's a good spot for him. But again, I worry about the touchdown equity if they get down there. I worry about him getting 20 rushing attempts. Just not something the Saints have shown that they're willing to do, really. Love the Olave call. I think his role is incredible. Derek Carr has looked for him early and often. He gets deep targets down the field. He gets volume. I absolutely love Chris Olave. I don't think the Giants defense can slow him down. So he would be my favorite play from the Saints here. If Taysom misses again, I've chased Juwan Johnson 2 weeks in a row. Don't know that I can do it again, but I mean, he's going to be interesting if Taysom misses.
The only problem that I have with Johnson is Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, with the touchdown stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they get into that like inside the 10-yard line, inside the 5-yard line, where like Johnson gets his ceiling, and they bring in Jimmy Graham, and they have designed Jimmy Graham plays, and like I don't know. I get what you're saying. I think I'd rather have Kraft. Like looking at the 3K price range, I think I'd rather have Kraft.
I agree with you. It's really frustrating because Johnson is a huge dude also. Like, it's not like he couldn't do the same stuff that Jimmy Graham is doing.
It's like, hey, we paid Jimmy Graham, and he's here to score touchdowns.
Yeah.
He has 4 catches on the year. He has 3 touchdowns. I mean, it's just, you can't make that stuff up.
Yep.
Houston at Tennessee, 37.5 total in this game. Tennessee, a 2.5-point favorite here at home against the Texans. Let's start with Houston. CJ Stroud, concussion protocol, did not practice Wednesday. Obviously, that's the biggest thing. Nico Collins, calf injury, did not practice Wednesday. Noah Brown, dealing with a knee injury, did not practice Wednesday. Houston is banged up right now. We know Tank Dell's out for the season. We talked about that. Dalton Schultz is expected back for this game, practice fully on Wednesday. That's a huge bump up if CJ Stroud is back here. If Stroud plays, I have a lot of interest in Houston in this game because you got to beat Tennessee through the air. Miami wasn't able to do that because their line got hurt. Tyreek got hurt. I mean, Waddle got hurt. Moser got hurt. Like, everyone got hurt in that game at some point. It was just a weird game. I think if Stroud plays in this game, I want to play some CJ Stroud, and I want to play whatever pass catchers are active here.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. The spread here has me very concerned about CJ Stroud's availability. I don't think Tennessee would be favored in this game if CJ Stroud was a lock to play. So I think he's very much in question. That said, if he does clear the protocol, I want some exposure here. Tennessee is a team that you attack through the air. CJ Stroud has been a very good passer all season long. If we can get CJ Stroud and Nico Collins, I think that's one of my favorite stacks on the entire slate. Obviously, there's injury concerns there, so got to pay attention to that. The Schultz stuff, Schultz coming back, I think is noteworthy. I think if Collins misses and Schultz plays, you can definitely take some shots on Schultz. Tennessee has been good against tight ends this season, but they did trade away Byard at the trade deadline, which is a big deal. Like, he's one of the best safeties in the NFL, traded him to Philly. So I would take some shots on Schultz in his first game back here if Nico Collins were out.
Do you take shots on Schultz if Mills is the quarterback?
I don't think so. I can't pay that price tag. If he was $4K, yes, but at $4,900, I don't think I could pay that price with Davis Mills at quarterback.
I think that's my initial thoughts too. If Mills is that quarterback, I like Tennessee defense too.
Yes,
I think they're again like they're upper tier price tag, but if Mills is that quarterback, if we're gonna get Davis Mills chucking the football, and like if Nico Collins sits too, like yeah, I think this would be a spot. Tennessee side of this game, I have some interest in DeAndre Hopkins. My concern is we get both teams just kind of pounding the rock, and like we lose a lot of game time in this game. Just in general, game script kind of favors the run. I like Hopkins a lot more if CJ Stroud's able to play in this game. Talk to me here about Tennessee.
Yeah, I think CJ Stroud is the key to unlocking the DFS viability of this game. I'm completely with you there. I have interest in Hopkins as well. Another double-digit target week for him. Will Levis is looking capable at the quarterback position as well, and he's running a little. We knew he had this running upside. I think you can take shots on Levis at 5,400 if CJ Stroud is playing, because I think that means that Houston's playing with a lead here. And that means that Tennessee is throwing the ball way more than they want to be. Hopkins is definitely the number one target, but I cannot leave out the role that Tyjae Spears has had here in the last couple of weeks. He had 16 carries and 6 targets 2 weeks ago. Last week, he didn't quite have the rushing attempts, but I mean, in that game against Miami, it was a close back and forth game. He did have 8 targets in the passing game. Like, this is a very talented guy. He's getting more and more involved. He has a role here, and if Tennessee's playing from behind, I'm chasing that passing game work that he's got in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, how tilting. Derrick Henry averaged 2 yards per carry in 17 attempts. He ran for 34 yards and he had 2 touchdowns.
Yes.
I fully faded him on Monday.
Same.
But yeah, I mean,
and I played a ton of Tyjae Spears.
I did. I wrote Spears up. I think you did too. We were on Expert Survey on Monday's 2 game slate, and I think we both highlighted Spears. If you think if Stroud plays, I have interest in Spears, because then I think like Texans have a chance to get up in this game. If Tennessee gets up in this game, they're going to pound the rock with Derrick Henry. So I really think the upside, if you're building like a CJ Stroud double stack, I think that's where you'd run it back with like Hopkins, Spears, and like fully just kind of sell out on this game. I don't have anything else for Tennessee though.
Okonkwo, we need to talk about Okonkwo. He's 2,900. another 6 targets again. Like, he hasn't been productive, but like 6 targets for 2,900 is a very nice roll.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those targets were late in that game when they were down. So I think, again, you really want Stroud to play in this game. I think that's just what we're coming to. We really want CJ Stroud to play in this game in general. All right, we move to the 4 o'clock games. No, we have one more 1 o'clock game. Kansas City, New England. I almost missed that game. Kansas City, New England. 37 total in this game. Gosh, Kansas City 8.5-point favorite. Let's talk about the Chiefs. The one thing that I want to point out about the New England defense is like their run defense. They're number 1 in run DVOA. They have allowed 59 rushing yards over the last 5 games on average. 88 on the season. They have been really good against the run. We know Pacheco banged up. He's not practicing Wednesday still. This might be one of those scenarios that, like, if Pacheco sits, this might be one of those spots where, like, not touching the running back situation for Kansas City. Rashee Rice, I think he's kind of the top dog now, and we talked about it last week as well. We've seen him just kind of take over as wide receiver 1. Travis Kelce's still wide receiver 1, but Travis Kelce at 7,600 just has not had. He's had one ceiling game this year, and like 7,600 for Kelce. Like, you need him to have ceiling games. Patrick Mahomes 7,800. You need him to have ceiling games. I don't think a New England game script is a ceiling spot for the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're all kind of getting priced up again.
I'm with you. If you told me that Patrick Mahomes was playing in a game with a 37 total at the beginning of this season, I would have told you things have gone very, very wrong for the Chiefs, and they kind of have, because their wide receiver room is an absolute disaster. Like, nobody can catch the football outside of Rashee Rice, and then there's Travis Kelce at the tight end position, who's getting up there in age, and just maybe if he's lost half a step, like, that's huge in the NFL. This Chiefs offense just does not look as explosive as it has in years past. I don't know how much exposure I want here. Certainly you can play Rashee Rice. It's very clear that he's the top target now outside of Travis Kelce. 6,100 with attached to Mahomes, very much in play. But I am worried about the overall game environment. Like, 37 is a very low total. I don't think I'm paying for Kelce in this spot. I expect Belichick to scheme Kelce kind of out of this game. And that's kind of why Rice is the guy that's popping here for me. I don't think I'm paying that price for Patrick Mahomes. Doesn't feel like a Patrick Mahomes ceiling game to me. And then the running back situation is kind of a mess. Even if Pacheco misses, I don't want to play CEH in this spot. I think McKinnon would be the guy I have interest in. And I think you need Kansas City to be playing from behind for McKinnon to have a serious role. And I mean, as bad as this Chiefs offense has looked over the last couple of weeks, I still expect them to play ahead here against New England. So I don't think I'm touching the running backs at all. It's Rice for me, and that's about it on Kansas City.
Do you know who my favorite play from Kansas City is, Keith? The defense.
There you go. I'm on board with that.
I mean, they're expensive, but I mean, yeah, I just don't have a ton of interest in Kansas City. I mean, I think Rice would probably be my favorite like position player at 6,100. I still think he has some upside at this price. Sticker shock a little bit, but I mean, his role over the last 3 weeks is like a $7,500 price wide receiver, and he has Patrick Mahomes throwing the football. Yep. And like you said, no one else can catch the ball. So that's a huge factor. Patrick Mahomes has only thrown for 300 plus yards 3 times this year. And he hasn't done it since week 7. So you think about that and you're like, wow. And like 2 of those 3 were 305 and 306. It's been a rough year for Patrick Mahomes.
And not his fault either.
No, I mean, no wide receiver play, you know? I mean, how many deep balls has MBS dropped this year? Yeah. I mean, not to be mean to that guy. Let's talk about New England. I mean, I guess the elephant in the room is Zeke Elliott going for 27 fantasy points, 7 catches for 72 yards and a touchdown. If Stevenson's out again, I think you can take Zeke here at 7,800 or 5,800. Like, his role was too good last week not to have interest in him if Stevenson sits.
Yeah, it's the Rachaad White role. Very, very close to Christian McCaffrey. Maybe not quite there, but yeah, I mean, 22 rushing attempts, 8 targets. That sign me up for 5,800. I don't care what the matchup is. I do believe this Kansas City defense is very good, but that's too good of a role to ignore. It's not an offense that I expect to be efficient or score a lot of points, but if he's going to catch 6 or 7 balls and get 20 rushing attempts, hopefully he falls in the end zone once and you're cooking. We just saw that exact script last week. I think he'd be in a very similar spot to last week, and that role has enormous upside. I don't think I'm playing pass catchers here. I'm definitely not playing quarterbacks here. The wide receivers are so cheap that we probably need to talk about them, but none of it is comfortable, and it's all dependent upon who plays. If Douglas makes it back, I think he would be my first look. Hunter Henry did have a touchdown last week as well.
Birthday.
2 touchdowns. It was his birthday. Fair enough. 2 touchdowns on his birthday. But I don't know. The pass catchers are so cheap. We probably need to talk about them a little bit.
Douglas sits. Zappy last week, we finally saw a little bit of Juju's upside.
Finally.
I don't trust that at all. Yeah. I mean, I think Devontae Parker has the most upside if Douglas is out. He had 9 targets last week. They're obviously a little bit more willing, or week before, they're obviously willing to throw the ball a little bit more. I mean, if Parker comes back here, Douglas comes back, yeah, I'm in it. If those guys are out, I probably just fade it. I mean, we could see Zeke get 8+ catches in this game if those guys are out. So my question is, every week I like to look for a punt defense. When we're looking at punt defenses this week, it's Cardinals against the 49ers. There's no chance I'm even touching that. Bills against Dallas. Dak has been playing way too good. Jets against the Dolphins or Patriots against the Chiefs is kind of my first lean here. As punt. Just I want 5 points. I want 5 points, and if you give me 10, I'll be ecstatic. I end up on these defenses every week, and I think the 2 punt defenses I'm looking at this week are the Jets and Patriots. I
love this call.
Yeah,
people are too afraid of their defenses giving up points. That does not matter. We know the Chiefs are going to throw a ton. Patrick Mahomes does an outstanding job of avoiding sacks. That is very true. He's also had one of the highest turnover seasons of his entire career. Yeah. I believe he's thrown the most interceptions of his career this season, or he's approaching that number. So I'm on board with this. If you can get a couple of turnovers here, even 2 or 3 sacks, it doesn't matter how many points they give up necessarily. And the Chiefs have also not shown the ability to score points in bunches this season.
The Chiefs have scored more than 21 points 1 time since week 8.
Yeah.
Do I want to sit here and tout the New England defense as a play this week? No, but when I'm looking at it mathematically, they're 2,300. Do you know how much an extra $1,000 from gosh, I don't even know. The thing is, when you even get into looking at it even more, it's maybe Carolina's defense at 28, but outside of that, we're really looking at the mid-tier defensive options this week. Texans, Browns, Falcons, Titans, Saints, they're all expensive. So getting a $1,500 discount, and if a defense doesn't score 2 touchdowns, I think it's playable.
I'm with you. I like that call a lot.
Found something I like on New England.
You mean you don't want to play as a chalky Zeke Elliott?
I would. I would. I'd probably be
too,
under. I wouldn't fade him, but I'd probably be under on him. But I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily fade him. All right, let's go to the 4:00 games. We got some really solid 4:00 games this week. We got 3 games with totals over 47 this week on this 4:00 window. Let's go San Francisco at Arizona, 47.5 total here. San Francisco, 12.5 point favorite. Very rare to see a double-digit favorite on the road in the NFL, but we're here, and they probably should be favored by more. Brock Purdy's still 6,800. He's been playing great. Over 23 fantasy points now in 5 of his last 6 games. 6,800 just seems too cheap for him. obviously, like Christian McCaffrey, smash spot. Ayuk and Debo, smash spots. Kittle, smash spot. Like, I mean, I'm going to have Purdy double stacks here. And I've been double stacking against Arizona all year. Now we get like a phenomenal offense to do it with.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to get exposure to this San Francisco offense. One of them goes nuts every single week. So then now they get one of the best matchups in the entire league. I think Christian McCaffrey is my first lean here. Arizona's been atrocious against the run. I do want to keep an eye on the Elijah Mitchell injury. If Mitchell is out, I think McCaffrey has like the highest floor that we've seen from any player all season long, because he should get there. That San Francisco should play from well ahead in this game, and they don't necessarily trust Jordan Mason to grind the clock out the way that they do Elijah Mitchell. So Mitchell being out would raise the floor and the ceiling for McCaffrey for me. I might just be locking in McCaffrey if Mitchell is out. It's that good of a spot. You need some exposure to the passing game as well. We've seen what Deebo Samuel has been able to do the last 2 weeks. Like, just throw this guy the ball and watch him do what he does. Like, he takes it in from anywhere on the field. That being said, I think I prefer Ayuk this week. It's been Deebo week for 2 weeks in a row. I think it's Ayuk's turn in this spot. Debo's price has come all the way up to 7,700. He's now 500 more than Ayuk. Give me the savings on Ayuk. He had 9 targets last week, 126 yards. He just didn't find the end zone, or he himself would have had a monster game. Somebody on this offense is going crazy. It's a fantastic spot. The Kittle stuff, I mean, I worry when all three of McCaffrey, Ayuk, and Debo are healthy that he blocks a little bit more. There's still a ceiling there, though. Like, if he starts getting loose over the middle, they'll keep throwing him the ball. So I want a little exposure to Kittle. He's probably 4th on the list for me. Behind, it's McCaffrey 1, Ayuk 2, Debo 3, and Kittle 4 for me this week.
I think Kittle is always going to be 4 for me. But as far as like, here's the thing with Kittle. He's had very similar upside and ceiling as Travis Kelce this year, and he's $1,800 cheaper. So, and this matchup, I'm going to tell you right now, this matchup for San Francisco is way better than the Travis Kelce, because I mean, Bill Belichick's number one thing for years now has been take away the number one guy. They take away Travis Kelce in that game. It'd be interesting, but yeah, I mean, I love San Francisco in the spot. They have a 30 implied team total,
highest on the slate. Yep.
Yeah, don't overthink this. Get exposure to everybody. Like, if you only build one lineup, probably building one lineup with at least 2 San Francisco players on the slate. And you could play, and I really think you could play Purdy and McCaffrey together. That's just my thoughts. But my thing here, Keith, is who the heck are we playing from Arizona to keep this game close? Because that's where I'm struggling. You know, I don't know what to do here. Like, Hollywood Brown, he missed practice, or they didn't play last week. He was out. He's been dealing with a heel. He didn't practice again. I mean, do we just say, like, Trey McBride has a new role that we can't fade anymore, even with the price increase, even with this tough matchup, and we're just going to play Trey McBride here against one of the toughest defenses in the league?
I would say yes if he wasn't significantly more expensive than the wide receivers. 5,200 is, like, the role has been phenomenal, but the matchup is not phenomenal for Trey McBride. I do think he's super talented, and I believe everything that he's been doing here so far. So I would call him my favorite play from Arizona here. But just paying the money for a team that's probably going to get blown out doesn't feel great, especially if I could get a big game from a Greg Dortch or a Rondale Moore and save $1,000 or $2,000 in this spot. I would prefer to do it that way. I just don't trust either one of them for their role. Marquise Brown is officially questionable, you said?
He did not practice again Wednesday. So they had their bye week last week. He's still dealing with a heel. We know that, like, the week 13 game, he was off the field a lot for that Pittsburgh game with the heel. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have to monitor the Marquise Brown situation, but I think Dortch and Rondale would be my 2 targets. And Michael Wilson has an injury designation as well. Like,
he practiced Wednesday, though, yeah.
See, that would further convolute this situation. Like, we haven't seen him since Kyler's been back, have we? I don't think so. Week 10? When did Kyler come back?
I think they played week 10 together, right?
Week 10 together is their only game together this week. This year. Yeah, I mean, it's really tough to figure out what to do with these Arizona pass catchers. The only role I feel good about is Trey McBride. I do think that one of the wide receivers could find enough production to pay off their price tag in this spot, though.
Do you think this game as a whole has enough ceiling where we could go like Kyler, McBride, and two of Christian McCaffrey, Debo Ayuk? Do you think this game has that much ceiling? Because like it's a really expensive stack.
It depends on if Arizona can keep up, and Kyler's not that much cheaper than Purdy.
I'm playing Kyler as a play this week, like saying
like
he's going to run
touchdown.
8 to 10 times for 70 yards.
Yeah, that's very fair. I think if Arizona can keep up, like it's indoors in the dome in Arizona, so yeah, I think there's potential for this game to have that type of ceiling. Yes.
That was my initial thought too. It's like this game just has that like exploding ceiling, and I think like Dallas Buffalo makes a lot of sense as another like expensive game stack. These two games just to me scream game stack. So let's move on. We got Washington at LA taking on the Rams. 50.5 total here. Rams a 6.5 point favorite in this game. We'll go Washington first. They're coming off their bye week as well. They needed it. They're throwing the ball at a huge clip still. They looked awful against Miami the last game right before the break. Sam Howell played absolutely terrible. He played atrocious in that game. Still scored 20 fantasy points because he ran a couple in. I think this is a phenomenal spot to go to McLaurin and Dotson, Samuel for value. They're all very cheap in a game that screams Sam Howell throwing the ball a lot.
Yeah, this is the one that screams game stack to me because we know that Washington is not afraid to just let it rip and let Sam Howell drop back 45 times and just throw at the highest rate in the NFL. They've done it all season long. I love the Rams on the other side of this. I love Washington coming off the bye, 2 weeks to prepare, potentially being able to keep up a little bit in this spot. Like you said, a much needed spot for the bye. Like Sam Howell had started to play well, but he had really been going downhill the last 2-3 weeks before their bye. I think it gives them a chance to reset and potentially come back here and be able to keep this game close. I have a lot of interest in this game. McLaurin, I'm going to continue to say, has the most ceiling in this wide receiver room. I know it's been a struggle to find that ceiling here. Howell has been spreading it all over across the receiver core and using the tight end as well. But McLaurin just feels like the guy that should be able to go off for a massive game here. That said, Curtis Samuel's a guy I played a ton before their bye. His role was outstanding. He's still only 4,600. Don't mind going back to that. And I still believe in the talent of Jahan Dotson. I know it's been a bit of a struggle for him this year, but a very talented receiver at 4,700 on a team that's going to drop back 40 plus times, in my opinion. I'm in for that. I don't necessarily want to play Howell because I'm probably using Stafford stacks on the other side, but all three of these wide receivers are very much in play for me. And then the running back situation, if Brian Robinson misses, is Antonio Gibson going to come off the field? Like, he's been used in the passing game all season long. I don't know if they go to like a Chris Rodriguez in that situation or if Gibson just has a massive role here.
I mean, so I watch the Dolphins every week, but yeah, that week 13 game against the Dolphins when Robinson got hurt, Rodriguez got a lot of carries in the second half. So
that's probably fair.
I wouldn't necessarily think Gibson comes off the field. I think his role gets bumped up, but I mean, I don't think they want to run Antonio Gibson 20 times. I don't even think they want to run him like 15 times. So I think Gibson's upside is obviously in the passing game. I mean, maybe Rodriguez is in play if Robinson plays, but I just want to attack the passing game. And I kind of like Howell more than Stafford. I get what you're, going with Stafford, but again, like in this day and DFS age of quarterback play, like Howell gives us that rushing ability. Stafford's not going to run. He's not going to run. He's going to take a kneel down at the end of the game.
He might throw for 5 touchdowns though.
Yeah, he might. He might against Washington. No, I agree with you. Like, one of my favorite props this week is anything. I wrote it down on my notebook. Anything, Rams passing.
Yeah,
All right,
same.
let's talk about those Rams. Cooper Kupp. I mean, I debated it with you last week. I was like, he's too cheap again. Should we do it? I don't want to do it against Baltimore. 8 catches, 115 yards, and a touchdown. Great to see Cooper Kupp getting more and more involved again. Puka still has upside. I mean, Williams is in an amazing spot here. One of the reasons that I don't love Stafford is because Williams could run for 3 touchdowns in this game. The Rams are in a great spot. It's Stafford, it's Williams, it's the 2 pass catchers. I still don't like touching the Higbee situation. I think that there's better tight end plays. The best thing about the Rams is it's 4 guys for me, and I want exposure to all 4 of them.
Yeah, I mean, I am in love with this spot for the Rams. The easiest way to beat the Commanders this season has been through the air, and I trust McVay. Like, I know Kyron Williams has been outstanding. He's had
on
an
McVay's fantasy team.
That might be true. He has had an incredible season, and maybe Kyron Williams vultures 2 or 3 touchdowns from me in this spot, and I'm broke when we talk about this next week. But I feel like McVay is going to capitalize on just like Stafford has looked really good the last couple of weeks, first of all. And Washington's pass defense has been atrocious all season long. He has Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua both look incredible. I know Puka's dealing with injuries as well, but he's just a tough dude, and he has gutted it out through these things all season long. Cooper Kupp looked back and healthy. He's phenomenally underpriced if he's going to have that double-digit target role. Like we know Cooper Kupp can go for 40 in this type of spot. Cooper Kupp is my favorite wide receiver of the entire week. I love him. 7,800 is way too cheap. Fully buying into what we saw last week, him getting back involved. Nakua being there is like, I still think Puka is an incredible talent. Such a steal in the draft that they got from him. So I'm just leaning. I'm not touching tight ends either. I'm leaning into this passing situation though. It's Kupp and Nakua. DeMarcus Robinson had 10 targets last week. I don't trust that. I would rather.
Atwell had a concussion. He left early in that game. That's why Robinson had so much work.
Right, and I don't know that he's going to make it back for this one.
I think if Atwell misses with a concussion, I think we have to have some exposure to Robinson. He's too cheap.
All right, you have interest in Atwell if he does make it back?
Yeah, he's too cheap too. I mean, 3,500 for 30. Like these guys are 35 and 3,600. Like one or 2 big plays. Listen, if you're double stacking Stafford, we like Stafford. We already say it.
Yep.
Double stacking Stafford with Puka and Kupp is really expensive. You know, taking one of those 2 guys and playing Robinson or Atwell, whoever plays, just makes the stack cheaper. That's all I was going to point out.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. And I mean, I would much rather play Tutu than DeMarcus Robinson. I know that.
We all would.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on board with the Tutu stuff. I don't trust DeMarcus Robinson is the problem. But the price tag in an offense that I love, I'm on board with that. It's just not a comfortable play.
He was already getting some like deep work over Tutu, like over the last few weeks. So like if Tutu Atwell sits in this game, unless Robinson like becomes that like shiny toy, chalky toy, I think I'd have interest in Robinson. If Robinson's going to be 15% owned, if I play him,
kind of like the Mingo situation from last week.
Exactly.
Like we both liked him when we talked about him Wednesday. Then we turn over the cards on Sunday, and it's like 20% Jonathan Mingo. That did not feel great.
No, what are you guys doing? Play Mingo is cheap guy, but I mean, Robinson would be ownership / does Atwell come back? Because again, I just don't trust the Higbee role. Davis Allen was super involved last week, so like, I don't know. I don't trust the tight end situation. I do like Stafford double stacks because he's not going to run. He's going to get through there. If Stafford is on the winning lineup, he's thrown for 4+ touchdowns.
Yep,
you know, that's how Stafford's going to be in the winning lineup. All right, game of the week, Dallas at Buffalo. What a fantastic football game. Dallas sitting really pretty right now at 10-3. Buffalo with their, backs on the wall a little bit. They're not having the season that everyone kind of projected them to. 50.5. Buffalo, 1.5 point favorite in this game. Let's start here with Dallas. Dak Prescott has been MVP type play over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 games. He's 8K, but man, how hard is it not to play this guy? Like, I hate this spot for Tony Pollard. I think this is a Ferguson, CeeDee Lamb, Cooks, Dak Prescott baller game.
Yeah, we completely agree. CeeDee Lamb, if he was not 9,200, would be my favorite play of the week. Or rather, if Cooper Kupp wasn't 7,800, I prefer Kupp for the savings. But CeeDee Lamb has the highest upside on the entire slate among wide receivers. Probably second on the slate behind Christian McCaffrey for me as far as overall upside. Absolutely love the spot for CeeDee Lamb. Love the Brandon Cooks call as well. We've seen him pop off for touchdowns in 2 of the last 3 weeks, 3 of the last 5. Like, he's just been targeted in the end zone a bunch this season. 5,200. He doesn't need to do much else outside of catch that touchdown, and you feel pretty good about it. Love him as a double stack partner there with Dak and CD. Jake Ferguson call is phenomenal as well. Like, Dak's probably throwing for 3 touchdowns in this spot, 3 or 4, I would say, would be my projection. Should be a pretty fast-paced game, high-scoring game. I think this is better than the KC Buffalo game that everybody was in love with last week. I like this game better. And I agree with you, not a great spot for the running backs. I still don't trust Pollard to carry a huge workload. Rico Dowdle is still involved. So just give me Dak and the pass catchers.
Now, I will ask you, if Dowdle misses the game with the ankle, he was obviously limited last week. He wasn't involved in the passing game now the last 2 weeks. Are we playing Pollard more as like a pass catching back? Like, this is a guy that had 7 catches last week in a tough Philly game. The problem with Dallas right now is, I mean, they've scored at least 30 points in 5 straight. This offense has just been so good. It's like, how do I get off these guys? Pollard's still under 7K. Like, I don't know. I don't want to play Pollard as a runner because I hate the spot as a runner. But if he's going to get 15 carries and like 6 to 8 catches, it's hard not to have a little exposure.
Yeah, I mean, the passing game work, I don't know how much that had to do with Dowdle. It's not like Dowdle's been super involved in the passing game. I would love to see more of that out of Pollard. I would have a lot more interest in him if I knew that he had that role. He just really hasn't had it this season. We've seen a lot of like 2 and 3 catch type of weeks rather than the 6 and the 7s where we saw a ton of that last year. I don't know if I trust the role. If you could guarantee me 6 catches, I would be all over Pollard at 6,700.
Yeah, but he could easily have a 2-catch game.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm with you. I'm not a huge Pollard fan anyway. I think he's just been overvalued all year.
Some of my best weeks this year have been fading Pollard.
Yeah, I hope he gets ownership in this game. All right, Buffalo side of this game, obviously Josh Allen, Dak Prescott. If you're paying up for quarterbacks, those are the 2 guys you're paying up for on the slate. Like, don't overthink that. Cook had a phenomenal game last week against Kansas City, but it was really just one big play. Like, he had a good game. I don't want to discount that. He had a good game, but he had one big play, and it really kind of set him up. I don't know how much I love Cooks in this spot. I think this is a Gabriel Davis, Stephon Diggs. I know Davis was one of the guys I was very high on last week. He sucked. I don't want to overthink this. I'm going to go back to the well on Diggs and Davis here. If Kincaid sits, I like Dawson Knox at 2,700. He's a guy that I think could catch a touchdown if Kincaid ends up sitting.
Yeah, I mean, if Kincaid sits, Knox might be the best tight end play of the week at 2,700 because Kincaid's role did not go anywhere. We talked about that last week. Tons of draft capital on this guy. Played really well in Knox's absence. If Kincaid is in there, I think he's my favorite Buffalo target here. The James Cook stuff, like, he had a phenomenal first half. The one big play, like you mentioned. I was listening to the Pick Six show before we jumped on here, and shout out to Rich Rebar. One of the best in the business was just going off on Buffalo for not using James Cook more. He's a super talented running back, and they're messing around with guys like Latavius Murray and Ty Johnson. Like, what are you doing? Just use your talented running back. Completely agree with Rich on that. But if we're not going to see that type of usage, it's really hard to play him in a tough spot against a great Dallas defense. So I'm on the fence on Cook. I might take some shots there because I do believe in the talent. I believe in the passing game role, which I think could be important in this spot, especially if they get behind. And paying up for Diggs, I think, is going to be a little bit difficult. So mild interest in Cook for me. I don't know if I end up there or not by the end of the week, but I do have interest there. I mean, Diggs is the guy you want, obviously, but it's tough to get him with Allen. That's a very expensive stack, especially when we probably want a piece of that 49ers offense as well. And they're all expensive. So I would love to save some money with like a Gabe Davis or a Dalton Kincaid. If Kincaid misses, I'm all aboard the Knox train.
All right, let's play the morning grind game, and then we'll get out of here. Fun slate, lot of stuff on this slate to break down and pay attention to. But I think overall a fun slate, and I know I said it last week, but I'm going to say it again. I'm going to be overweight on those 4:30 games because they're phenomenal. So, morning grind game last week I did not get Keenan Allen. You got Debo. So we missed out on that. We got to bounce back with our morning grind game this week. Let's get started here. Quarterback for 300 plus passing yards.
This is the best spot of the year for Matthew Stafford. Cooper Kupp looks healthy finally, and Puka Nacua is on the field as well. I love this spot for the Rams passing game.
I like Stafford as well. I like that call. I'm going to go Brock Purdy for 300 plus passing yards this week. Low-owned running back for a touchdown. Again, we record on Wednesday nights. This is a first look podcast. We do not have ownership up in front of us. Who do you got?
I had originally written down Devon Achane, but I did that before I did a little more research, and then I noticed the toe injury. Like turf toe is not a fun injury for a running back. I'm going to pivot that real quick. I think Chuba Hubbard stays pretty low owned. Tougher spot against Atlanta, but the role has just been incredible. I'll have some Chuba again.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I'll tell you right now, my running backs are probably going to be somewhat chalky. I only wrote down 7 running backs this week. When I was doing my initial research, I added a couple during the podcast. It'd be really interesting to see what ownership looks like on some of these guys this week. With all that said, do we think Breece Hall? Gosh, I think he's going to be popular too.
There's a lot. I don't know that he will be.
I'll go Breece Hall.
I think Zeke is going to take up a ton of ownership. I think McCaffrey's obviously going to have a ton. Be interested to see where Pollard comes in. I'll give you Breece Hall as 8 to 12% range. I think is where he falls.
Yep, and we always say less than 10%. So.
Yep.
No ownership yet. Quarterback, wide receiver, stack for a touchdown.
Give me Purdy to Ayuk this week.
I'm with you, I think, this week on Ayuk. I think Debo is going to get the ownership, and I love just playing the opposite of the ownership.
Yep.
Because, I mean, they're both so extremely talented.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to my Samuel Howell Curtis Samuel combo here. I just love this role that Curtis Samuel has right now. So give me Hal and Curtis Samuel. Wide receiver for 8+ targets.
Cooper Kupp, baby. Love this spot for him this week.
I'm going to take the cheat code. Listen, it hasn't necessarily been a cheat code.
I was going to say it has absolutely not been a cheat code this year.
I love DeAndre Hopkins this week. I really like him a lot more if CJ Stroud's able to play in this game. Tight end for a touchdown.
I feel like I'm taking your guy here after our discussion of the game, but Tucker Kraft is the guy I had written down.
You love to see it. I'll go Ferguson.
Love that one too.
Yeah. Took my guy. That's okay. Defense for 10+ points.
Give me the Dolphins against Zach Wilson. Potential for some rain there as well. Sorry, I'm just not buying what we saw out of Zach Wilson last week.
I don't think anybody should buy what we saw out of him. I'm gonna go kind of off the board here and go the Chicago Bears. I don't think the Bears get a ton of ownership. I'm with you. They have been playing a lot better. I mean, they're at the point this year where they're not really playing for anything anymore. But I mean, pride.
Eberflus is playing for his job, I think. So
yeah,
I mean, there's that.
And Fields is playing to stay on this team. There's been a lot of trade talks about Fields next year. So
I like that call a lot. I actually ended up on a lot of Bears defense last week because they were just super cheap. And I was like, man, they've been a little bit better. Why not? It actually worked out really well. So love that call.
A lot of defenses did well last week. Just in
Cleveland,
general.
Jets. Yep. There were.
But if you look at the Bears, the last 3 weeks, they have 9 interceptions. They've really been getting after quarterbacks. So, and Joe Flacco, he's going to take a sack or two. So I think this is a great spot for the Bears defense. So let's go to our betting portion of the morning grind. Give me against the spread or money line bet this week.
Give me Falcons -3 at Carolina. I was surprised to see this line so close. Like, the Falcons are a legitimately decent team, and Carolina is just not. On the road, I get it. Interdivision probably keeps it a little closer, but 3 is not enough for Atlanta.
I'm going to take the Cowboys money line against the Bills. They should not be a dog even in Buffalo. So give me Dallas's money line. I mean, you could take the 1.5, but I think Dallas is going to win the game outright. So I'm just going to take the money line and take the extra little bit of, what is it, plus 114 instead of like minus 110. So, over under. What do you got for us on over under this week?
Give me Commanders Rams over 50. There's some 50.5s out there, so it's probably going there eventually, but jump on that 50. It's a big total. It's one of the highest totals of the week, but just I love this spot. Like, we know Washington will not give up, and they'll keep chucking it even if they're behind.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, all three of these afternoon games, I like. The one that I wrote down was San Francisco over 47.5. At 47.5 for a San Francisco team that is just
San Francisco can put up 47 by themselves.
So. They could. I mean, I was going to say it, but I didn't want to jinx it. But yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. I mean, they put up over 30 in 4 of the last 5 and at least 27 in 5 straight. So if we can get anything here out of Arizona, I really like this 47.5 number. Player prop. What do you got for us on the player prop side of things here?
I've talked about him a ton. I love him this week. Cooper Kupp, 5.5 receptions is not enough. Give me the over.
Oh, I'm going to go bet that right now.
Yeah.
Did not see that one. Oh, really like that one. I'm looking really quick to see. It's not up on. I'm going to got to pull up something real quick. I have my Prize Picks one ready to go, but the one that I wanted is not on the Hard Rock. I got to see if it's actually up anywhere else really quick. We'll go to the pick and play, and then I'll come back to my player prop here.
All right. I will go CeeDee Lamb, more than 87.5 receiving yards. Dude has just been absolutely smashing. Bit of a down week last week, but he's been over 100 yards so many times this week. Was very shocked to not see this number in the 90s.
I have Rashard White more than 64.5 receiving yard or rushing yards this week. 3 down back. It's so hard for me not to have a ton of interest here in White. Sorry, I am still trying to pull up. Trying to filter.
Yep.
I have a ton that I like. I'm just trying to figure out. I like Hopkins, but it's not up on. It's not up yet. All right. Well, I really like Hopkins. That I'm sure we'll get that. I'll give you another one. This is for the Saturday game, just to give you guys one. Because the 4 that I just checked, I really like Jaden Reed's receptions. That's not up yet either. I like Barkley's rushing. That's not up yet either. So give me Jamar Gibbs over 49.5 rushing yards. Detroit running game against this Broncos run defense. I'm going to be very heavy on Saturday on Gibbs and Montgomery. So I'll take that. Sorry, it's not a Sunday one for everybody, but I gave out a couple that you can watch for. So, Keith, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, fun slate. I think a ton of ownership going to be in those late games, as it should be. All 3 late games are phenomenal. So another backloaded slate for us this week, which kind of similar to last week, but hopefully we get a little bit better result for the both of us this week.
Yeah. Listen, it can't be much worse than last week. So
I hear you.
It wasn't pretty. It wasn't at all. So I hope everyone has a fantastic week. Thanks for hanging out with us over there on the YouTube chat. Everyone in there, Derek, thanks for the kind words. Hope everyone has a great week 15. I'll be back week 16. Keith will be off. I have a special guest for you guys week 15 or week 16. We have not done a podcast together in over a year, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So there you go. Teaser alert. Hey, subscribe to YouTube. Get that teaser. Have a good one, everyone. We'll see you then.